Bone cancer in children? What's that about? How dare you? How dare...
Atheist Stephen Fry answers the question, what will he say to God if God turns out to be real?
Suppose what Oscar believed in as he died, in spite of your protestations, suppose it's all true, and you walk up to the pearly gates and you are confronted by God. What will Stephen Fry say to him, her, or it?
I will basically, what's known as theodicy, I think. I'll say, bone cancer in children? What's that about? How dare you? How dare you create a world in which there is such misery that is not our fault? It's not right. It's utterly, utterly evil. Why should I respect a capricious, mean-minded, stupid God who creates a world which is so full of injustice and pain? That's what I would say.
And you think you're going to get in on that?
No, but I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to get in on his terms. They're wrong. Now, if I died and it was Pluto, Hades, and if it was the 12 Greek gods, then I would have more truck with it, because the Greeks they didn't pretend not to be human in their appetites and in their capriciousness and in their unreasonableness. They didn't present themselves as being all-seeing, all-wise, all-kind, all-beneficent. Because the God who created this universe, if it was created by God, is quite clearly a maniac, utter maniac, totally selfish. We have to spend our life on our knees thanking him? What kind of God would do that? Yes, the world is very splendid, but it also has in it insects whose whole life cycle is to burrow into the eyes of children and make them blind. They eat outwards from the eyes. Why? Why did you do that to us? You could easily have made a creation in which that didn't exist. It is simply not acceptable. So, atheism is not just about not believing there's a God, but on the assumption that there is one. What kind of God is he? It's perfectly apparent that he is monstrous, utterly monstrous, and deserves no respect whatsoever. The moment you banish him, your life becomes simpler, purer, cleaner, more worth living, in my opinion.
That sure is the longest answer to that question that I ever got in this entire series.
When Stephen Fry sees God, he is not going to say anything. The breath is going to be knocked out of him completely. And in that moment, he is going to see how ridiculous all those statements were, because he's going to see God, and all the lies are going to dissipate. All the misconceptions are going to fall on the ground like dust. And he's going to see quite possibly the first time in his life the truth about God. And he will be speechless. But in the midst of all that blasphemy, he does bring up some good questions that atheists, if not all atheists, have. And that's the question, why would a good God allow evil to continue? Why would an all-loving God allow little children to contract cancer and die a horrific death? Why would an all-knowing, all-powerful deity allow famine to exist in the world? To the atheist, that means if God is real, he is a psychomaniac, devilish monster that is unworthy of worship. If only they could see the truth. If only the atheist could just step into eternity for just a few seconds and experience Jesus Christ. And you see, I think many of them forget about that. Why did Jesus go to the cross? They talk about God being evil and monstrous, and why would this monstrous, evil, selfish maniac take upon himself human flesh to go and die upon the cross, the most horrible, horrendous death you could possibly imagine? Why would the eternal God go through such suffering and mockery? Why would this horrible, wicked God go to such lengths to only be nailed to a wooden beam? And honestly, right there, I get so much hope, and I have the questions about the why and why did these things happen when I think that God actually, of all of creation and beyond creation, experienced the greatest suffering and sacrifice of all. Of all. Because you got to think, everybody, it's not just the death. It's not just the physical suffering. He literally, who was pure and spotless, took upon himself the sin of the entire world. All of the world's sin and darkness was upon him on the cross. He literally became sin. Not that he committed sin, but he literally became sin on the cross while he is suffering on the cross. Physical suffering, spiritual suffering, emotional, mental, all of it. Who alone? who is actually God in the flesh, whose level of sensitivity is beyond anything we could comprehend. Jesus was so sensitive he could pick up the thoughts of the Pharisees. He was so sensitive to the future, he knew what was about to happen. He knew Peter would deny him. He was so sensitive that in the crowd of people, he knew when some specific person touched the hem of his garment, he knew that that happened. You talk about sensitivity. And this sensitive individual who was divine now goes to the cross to die a horrible death. You want to talk about evil and wickedness and why does this happen? Why did Jesus die for you, Stephen Fry? Why you being a blasphemer who hates God and calls him a monster, why would he die for you? Why would he suffer for you? It's because he loves you, Stephen Fry. It's because he loves you. And you may not love him, but he paid the ultimate price for you. And not only for Stephen Fry, but for all the atheists. His blood was poured out for them. And even in their blasphemy, Jesus is still calling them to come to him, to be saved, to be forgiven, to be redeemed. There is hope for the atheist, but the atheist needs to lay down his pride and give his all to Jesus. Let me know what you think, and God bless you.